Hey everyone, have a here bro, video on Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. In this video, we're going to be discussing part 2 of the 10-year anniversary. I'm ready for it. Are you ready for it? So with that, if you're new to my channel, like, subscribe, comment below, do all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and dive right in. And of course, we know that the Dokkan Now special is going to be happening on 2/14, 1700 Pacific Standard Time. That is 5 p.m. Unfortunately, they're doing it on Valentine's Day, but over here in the United States, we have this celebration, Valentine's Day. I'm not sure how many other countries actually celebrate that, but it's going to be a tough scenario where I'm going to be definitely out and about. We'll be having dinner at that time, so it'll be tough for me to watch this live. I will be on X and maybe making some posts, but yeah, it's a shame that they're dropping on that time. Now, also on top of that, you need to realize that basically tomorrow morning, so about when I'm recording this video, about 12 hours from now, the banners for the part 1, the buy 3 get 1 free, will be ending. It's a very unusual time, 5 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I believe that is around like 10 p.m. JST. So, but again, that's an odd time frame. So if you're still thinking about summoning on part 1, you want to do so prior to 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So keep that in mind. But again, the Dokkan Now Part 2 campaign news are going to be dropping at that time. So let's talk a little bit about a Part 1 and how it all came to fruition. They dropped the Dokkan Now special at 2 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. So at least, this Dokkan Now is actually at a decent time for at least my time zone, right? Some of you guys are still like, oh, that's still horrific time. So 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time was part 1. And then, of course, the information all dropped on X, 4 a.m. There was a data download. I forget when that happened. It was a few hours later. And then the banners ended up dropping on 1/28, 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So when you think about 2 a.m. to 1 p.m., that was about 11 hours from the Dokkan Now special to then the banners dropping for part 1. So if we actually use that time frame as the same time frame for part 2, then it's going to look something like this, where 5 p.m. is Dokkan Now special. 7 p.m. should then drop the X, Twitter postings and the previews and all the details, and then 11 hours later will be 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, I would hate for them to do this. It's decent time for JST, right? It's 9 p.m. technically the next day, but 4 a.m. the next day, I would absolutely hate, right? So, kind of waiting for it now. Back in the day when they dropped banners on JP, it was kind of like 1 a.m. on Pacific Standard Time. So if they did 1 a.m., I think that would be okay, but definitely not 4 a.m. So I'm hoping they don't follow the same track here and they go actually 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. then drop it at the normal global time. Again, that's what we have to figure out with this whole merge and everything, is like, when is normal banners going to be coming out? And of recently, when we were all merged up, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time is kind of like that normal time of drop. Now that would be technically about 3 p.m. JST. So this is really the time frame that I'm hoping for, is that after the Dokkan Now campaign, we have the X previews and the postings, and then just a few hours later we'll have the data download, right? And the data download hopefully maybe at 9 o'clock, and then basically an hour after data download we have the ability to then summon for the brand new units. That's what I'm hoping for. Everything's happening on the 14th. Which again kind of sucks that I'll be out and about. Hopefully I can get away for like a half an hour, do some summons at 10 o'clock if they do drop it at 10 o'clock. And if they do drop it on 4 a.m., I'll be making summons around 7 a.m. or when I get up the next day. So this is really what I'm hoping. A lot of other individuals, like on the East Coast, it will be like 1 a.m. Again, JST is 3 p.m. This is the time frame I would prefer, right? And again, some of you guys are living in other locations and you're like, okay, this is still not a good time, but this is what I'm hoping for. So when your guys are thinking about, when is part 2 starting, well, part 2 technically has started, but when the banners drop, I'm guessing that this is going to be the time that they are going to drop the units, 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Again, because these banners are already been done with, and we should be then rocking and rolling right afterwards, right? So part 2, it's looking really, really hype. So I did a previous video as well about the banners in of itself and what the units should look like in the banners, and I used my bingo card to kind of fill out everything, and again, it's making a lot of sense on the Dokkan Festival exclusive side. That's on the left side here, and then you have the carnival featured on the right hand side. Really only 2 spots were kind of a question mark, but then some people did mention, hey, well, what about Tech Super Gogeta instead of Buhan? Now, if they actually end up doing that, then man, the part 2 banners are going to be so much more valuable than the part 1 banners that I feel bad for anybody spending too many Dragon Stones for part 1. But I really don't think that they're going to do that. They're generally pretty consistent about when there are kind of a mirror duality in terms of one unit versus another unit, and Dokkan Festival exclusives generally have one versus another. Gogeta didn't have, it was a standalone, right? He was technically a Tanabata unit, right? So yeah, it would make sense for that Super Vegito that was in the part 1 spot to then be the Super Gogeta Izie. I still think it's just going to be Buhan, right? It would be really, really awesome if it was Gogeta, because for those who don't have him, that's a huge win. And again, that banner will be absolutely, absolutely wild. So I'm sticking with this and what this looks like. Now, there are 2 question marks here. We have the banner unit, and then we have also what's going to be taking the place of Janemba, because every other unit that you see on here does have technically a counterpart to the part 1 units on there. So when it comes to the banner unit, I think most people are now just with the new information of Beerus, this card art here in the news, right? It was in the login, the login banner or the little news clip there, and everyone's like, "What? Who's that? Who's that? That's Beerus. We don't know that card art." So everyone's assuming that this is going to be, the SSR or something like that of Beerus as the banner unit. And it does make a lot of sense, being that I've already mentioned multiple times from using the roadmap, which I don't have a picture of the roadmap, but when you look at the roadmap, right, Gogeta is a Dragon Ball Z movies category. It took that spot. And then the only other new unit available besides Gohan, and of course then the Goku Frieza is another spot on the super side. Well, I've said this multiple times in different videos that in order for those 2 spots to make sense, Dragon Ball Z movies and super, it would have to fall into 2, in a sense, 2 movies, right? You have Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods, and then the super variation of it. And then you also then have Resurrection F, and then the super variation of that as well. So it seems like they're going to go with Battle of Gods with Beerus. It would make sense for them to do so. Now, I did originally, I'm going to still stick with it, that originally is going to be Pregnant Pan from Battle of Gods. We'll see what happens, but again, it's now looking a little bit more likely it is going to be a Beerus support unit, a Beerus banner unit. I'm hoping it's going to be a support unit. And interestingly enough, my question for this Beerus is he going to be movie boss and then superhero, or is he super boss and movie boss? Because it'll be nice to have him on both, right? It's because I don't think he'll be considered a super. I don't know. So I have to look at what the Tech Beerus actually has in categories. But anyway, so I think a lot of people are now leaning toward that because of the new card art. So, but I am still here to say I'm going with Pregnant Videl in Battle of Gods. Now let's go ahead and look at then the Janemba spot, right? The Janemba spot, you have 3 options to choose from. And I've mentioned this before in my previous video, but I'll kind of reiterate this again. There was one comment that brought up, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, was, well, it's a movie boss. What about Cell Max? I would go, okay, well, Cell Max, I think could be an option because the Janemba is a movie box. They'll go ahead and add another movie boss to it, and then of course Beast Gohan's going to be on the other side of the banner. So okay, I can see that happening. However, Janemba was a EZA unit, so I'm going, well, it feels like they should also provide another EZA unit. However, Janemba is also the first and only, I think, right at this point in time, dual category, non-Dokkan Festival exclusive, but yellow coin dual category 150% unit that has EZA. No one else has yet. So Cell Max wouldn't fall into that. He would be a movie boss, but not an EZA unit. Then I was thinking, well, the opposite side of movie boss would be superheroes. I'm sorry, movie heroes. So would be movie heroes. And then there are really only two options that would make sense in that spot there would be the Super Saiyan 2 Tech Gohan and then the Goku Piccolo here. But again, neither of them have EZA'd yet either. Again, both yellow coin LRs and really should EZA pretty soon. So the final option, which is probably the most likely option, is going to be the Trunks Goten. Trunks Gohan. Man, I miss saying a bunch of stuff already. The Trunks and Future Gohan unit. That is also a dual 150 lead. And if this unit does show up on this banner, and we'll know very soon, right? If this shows up on this banner here, we would then know that this will EZA, because that would then fill in the spot of the EZA unit next to the Tech Super EZA Cell, which we know that that's going to happen because of the EZA banner. And if this unit is on the Carnival banner, then 99.9% chance that this will then EZA in the celebration in part 2. So it would make a lot of sense for it to do so, and I think that would make a lot of sense for it to be in this spot here. So I'll go ahead and leave it here for what it is, and we'll just say Beerus, and this one here as then the option. Again, logically makes sense, but again, they can just put, you know, all these other units on here, and it kind of really doesn't matter since it's just a featured unit in the Carnival banner, and technically all these units then are actually pullable, but unfeatured versus featured, right? So because you can still get Cell Max, you can still Cell Max. I guess if you want to purchase him with coins, then you want him featured. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're gonna leave it off here. I am hoping it is not going to be 4 a.m. I'm hoping it's going to be 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when the banners drop, basically about 5 hours after the Dokkan special. Then the X post, the data download, and boom, we're in it. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys are ready for all this. And if you're new to my channel, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Thank you all for watching. Keep on Dokkaning, and we'll catch you next time. Later.